ever actually finally fell to nice. So let's see if we can build some new storylines here in this match with the Zerg player. In the top left, it is Yoger.
And over on the other side of the map, seeing if he can potentially put himself to the next stage of the tournament, it's going to be the red player, ButAlways. See the probe moving across the map. Not going to be quick enough to stop any kind of hatch first plays, but it is actually the pull and the gas here from Yoga, looking to get a couple of lings out there and active on the map.
I do quite like the hatch block option as well, if he wants to go for it. He can definitely delay him here a little bit. Some Protosses will just straight up dump the pylon as a deterrent. Others will just sort of circle around here, like don't even bother wasting the minerals on dropping down a structure. But I think this works in the favor of ButAlways' playstyle, where he tends to go air. And like with that Adept Printer build, if you force your Zerg opponent to take the wrong base first, it makes it that little bit trickier to run around with the queens and defend against that stuff, because your creep spread and your cycles are just a little bit out of whack.
Yeah, definitely. Not being able to connect those bases with the creep and being a little bit further of the rush distance, a lot more potential for, adept nonsense or oracles zooming around the place and picking off a couple of extra drones and just making your life a living hell. Probe out on the map here. Keen to see if he keeps it active and is going to do something a little bit on the cheekier side with it.
I'm just waiting to see a Stargate pop up in that production tab, not gonna lie to you, Polsky. That's what I'm vibing with.
I'm keen to see it as well. I think it's, like I said, seeing that Stargate out there, actually it's going to be able to sneak a link in here, so going to be able to try to explore what's happening, and it is the Stargate, and it will be seen there by Yoga, so I'm sure he's already quite familiar with this opponent and has done a little bit of study on him, but if he wasn't already confirming what he wanted to see, he is now. Actually, these lings getting a little bit more bang for their buck. They do pick off a probe and start to pressure this pylon. A second one might actually go down for only the starting 4 lings. He's not doing a bad job of things, and he is keeping those adepts at home at least.
Can't believe that other probe didn't die. But yeah, that's really annoying for ButAlways early on. Good scouting from Yoga too. And this is one of the features of ButAlways' play that we've seen a little bit, is he's not interested in the old school Oracle openers. No, he likes voideries, and he's gonna make X amount. Could be 1, could be 10, who knows?
I love it. I'm keen to see it. We'll see when he's going to pump the brakes on those void rays, or if he's going to pump the brakes on those void rays rather, and transition into something else. Like you said, a variety of follow-ups, none of which will be scouted by that overlord, or really any overlords on this side of the map. Once you see that chrono boosted void ray out, you're going to start to see those overlords having to have some more, what would I say, like conservative positioning, I suppose.
I have to say, I do like how quickly Yoga's pushed the creep out here. He's basically almost connected between the 3 at the moment, so that gives him a little bit more maneuverability. Now going for the spores as well, and with those queens out, shouldn't be too bad to defend against this, but this is the bothersome part. You have those overlords spread for vision, and unfortunately, slow as they are, you will kind of inevitably lose a couple. And this also hurts your scouting later on, right? Because he cleared up the ones near the base. So how is Yoga supposed to scout the follow-up?
Well, so far there's no crazy follow-up, only just adding a couple of workers here and there. He does drop a 3rd Nexus, and it is just more adepts to be able to deal with run-bys. He's continuing to pump out a couple of those void rays, just controlling the flow of the game for the time being, and looking for any 4th hatchery. And this is where I'm keen to see that void ray hit squad that can sort of force down a hatchery as you do try to take that 4th, and make it actually quite annoying for the Zerg to be able to establish that 4th hatchery at some point.
Yeah, history really does repeat itself. That void ray hit squad was something that was around like an expansion ago, and it's come full circle back again now with the added flavor of Adepts joining the fray, and he's definitely going to get some drone kills here. Ooh, that one Void Ray will go down, but a worthy sacrifice here perhaps as he starts targeting down some drones, gets stuck on move command there for a second it looked like. But still more damage to be found here for these units if you can just get close enough to target some of those drones. Again, the third has to be evacuated, so he's losing a lot of mining time here as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's not the first time in ZVP that I've seen in this region. The Zerg just doesn't have, actually finishes the Shade right on top of those Lings. Would have expected to cancel. That's definitely not ideal for ButAlways. He loses all of those Adepts for very little gain there. They were doing such a great job for him and keeping a lot of pressure on his opponent. And now those Lings will actually will be free to move across the map and apply pressure towards that third. In the meanwhile, Spire starts to go up, and this is where Yoga starts to go for a bit of a transition. You see the Twilight, Forge, Robo, a couple more gates being added. He's starting to move away from those Void Rays.
Yeah, the Void Rays have a lot of utility, right? We've seen the harassment. We've seen them try and target down queens and workers. They're also great defensive tools. So if Yoga was really committing to a push here, you know, you just recall those homes, zap it all down, and Yoga's wasted a whole bunch of money. So it does make your life really difficult as a Zerg. Here's for the Spire and Hydras from here. So I wonder, do you go Mutas or Corruptors? Because we've seen him actually go Corruptor before, but in conjunction with like a Nidus or something. It's kind of a weird build. So I'm sort of wondering, because he dropped the Hydrogen as well, what he's committing to here.
Really don't love the Corruptors against the Void Rays, to be honest. That usually doesn't end very well, and it's not like, even though it's a big commitment to a whole lot of Void Rays there, but still I do much prefer those Mutas that do come into the production tab there. And 7 of them. I'm keen to see how hard he commits to those Mutas. He is actually going up towards 10. And now a bit of a move out on the map from Yoga. He did, from ButAlways rather. He did add quite a few gates, and a couple more of them are finishing up now as he's looking to apply a little pressure.
I actually like this from Yoga though. If he can get those Mutas together, he's got a lot of queens, trying to get some spines. There's not a whole lot that can deal with this much firepower. The Void Rays using their ability now means that he just has to wait that out, and he can actually reasonably engage that, I think. Probably just needs a bit more ground support, and now I'm getting a bit concerned because he may lose his hatchery. He's going to lose some workers here as well.
Void Rays finally do come in and get on top of everything, and you do have the transfuse ready from a couple of those queens to try to keep those Mutas alive, and they're doing a decent job of things. Recall does come in though, and most of those units being saved, a couple being left behind, and you do see immediately more drones coming up. But this is where, in reaction to the Mutas, Phoenix being pumped out, an additional Stargate getting added, and the shield batteries for safety back at home.
Yeah. There's not a whole lot of maneuverability available for ButAlways to deflect the Mutas here. You do have to wait for like a couple of Phoenixes, and then it's still something that requires a lot of your attention to micro against. But the strength here is that he got the hatchery and he got some workers as well. So Yoga would ideally get some damage done here to get more of a foothold in this game. I thought he might be able to clean that up a little bit more easily than he did. But he's only just now caught up to the worker count, and he's still on even base. That's not ideal.
Definitely not. He's still committing in towards those Mutas as well, even adding the +1 flyer attack, even though he's starting to see a couple of these Phoenix come out. So I'm a little worried for him. He's adding a couple more of those hatches, but I'm sort of wondering what the next step is for the Zerg, because I feel like he continues to commit to these Mutas. This game might not work out too well for him. It's already not working out for him. The Phoenix actually getting caught in towards the middle of the map and pushing up on those Mutas, chasing them all the way home, and that's really thinning out the flock here. He's starting to move into a couple more Corruptors now, but so much pressure on this hatchery, which is only now just finishing up. It won't even be established at all. It's going to be forced down yet again here, Zeph.
This might be GG, honestly. ButAlways has not the hugest force, but it packs enough of a punch against what Yoga has, which is mostly Muta. He's now having to add in those Corruptors after all, because there's just too many Phoenixes, but the ground army isn't that big, and you've got a lot of Stalkers, you've got a lot of Zealots, and he's just too poor to afford as much stuff as he needs. Yoga, I guess he's able to sort of regroup here a little bit because ButAlways is actually playing very safely.
Yeah, not going to try and force the issue like you would see maybe a Haas or a Nice do and just try and end that game. There's no follow-up punch, at least for the time being. Instead, a little bit more conservative, grabs himself Templar, grabs himself that Fleet Beacon as well. And he's, like you said, he was going to go for that fourth Nexus, which was just blocked for a moment by that one cheeky Zergling. And now he's getting the Onions. The Onions, Seth. The Onions are very good against Mutalisks.
Yeah, I think this is one of those when you're ahead, get more ahead scenarios, right? You just continue expanding your economy, knowing that the Zerg is at best going to be on even bases with you. You continue to push that tech tree forward, and Yoga's still going to be playing catch up. He hasn't been able to do any damage to his opponent. The Mutas are at home. They can't even
Ooh.
make it across the map.
I'm looking at this run by of all the zealots here. I'm kind of wondering, if he's so worried about microing those mutas around. You see the zealots roll in and kill that hatchery again. That's just going to be so sad. That's going to be the saddest story.
Yeah, the base denial from ButAlways is really sick. If he can get that again, I think Yoger just kind of has to go all in. I don't think you have many options. I do really like that he's adding on the Lurker Den, because Lurker's a pretty good combat unit if you can get an engagement where they're not ready for them, or you get a really sick positioning and it's really hard to clean up. Then sure, you could definitely work some magic there, but as it stands, I mean, he's mostly defending with Ling Muta against Phoenix Zealot.
Yeah, he's trying to swap a little bit into Hydras and, like you said, maybe potential for the Lurkers. I'm not sure if he's going to get them into big enough numbers though to be super effective. That's quite a few of those Lurkers, but I'm looking at how many Phoenix there is to be able to pick them up, and if you can get the Zealots on top of the Hydras, already you're seeing, before the Lurkers even finish up, so many of those Mutas starting to go down here. Zeph, and he gets on top of all of the Lurkers.
Oh my god, he doesn't even get to borrow them. The sickest lifts on ButAlways. Phoenix is there, and the Zerg army melts. Look at that puddle of red under the Protoss army. Yoga has been absolutely destroyed. GG. And our Protoss player, ButAlways, takes the first map.
Oh, the timing doesn't get much better than that. Just coming in like 5 seconds before those Lurkers are finished, and you just pick them all up. And that's what I was kind of worried about, the Lurkers not really being in big enough numbers there to be able to deal with that Phoenix count, and all of them just getting picked up. Even if the Hydras could try and shoot up, the Zealots were all on top of them. And again, it's just those annoying melee units just being too cheeky and taking up all the damage.
Yeah, I don't know. Yoga's looked so promising in the past, but I felt like that game ButAlways really held the reins. There wasn't a lot of opportunity for Yoga to do much to his opponent at all. I don't think the Mutas ever really got to play their role, which was to harass. They got deflected very nicely, and the army of ButAlways just kind of exploded because he had equal economy or greater, having killed a lot of his opponent's workers. And that's kind of the way the cookie crumbled from that point. If the Protoss is ahead of you on that economy, what can you really do about it if your base keeps getting denied?
Yeah, I think that was kind of the main thing. The effectiveness of the Adepts yet again, just showing, so many problems for the Zergs in this region dealing with them. But I would say 100% agree. It was the base denial that was sort of the nail in the coffin for Yoga. If he had access to that additional base of saturation, he might have actually had what he needed to be able to go for a little bit of a quicker transition into that Hydra Lurker he was going for after the Phoenix response from the Protoss. But unfortunately, that's the way it sort of breaks down, and it's a bit sad, when you look at this kind of a timing that ButAlways comes in here with. Maybe if that base had been up a little bit earlier, you see the earlier tech switch, and you never hit this sick timing.
Yeah, I feel like after that initial damage, Yoga just needed another minute. Every time ButAlways came in, he was like, no, one more minute, and I would have been fine. I would have been able to kill that army before it killed my third base. I would have been able to get in there before the Phoenixes came out, all that sort of stuff. But unfortunately, that's not how it worked out. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, map number 2, where hopefully the Zerg player can get a point on the board and give us the full best of 3. Don't go away. Welcome back, everyone. We are about to hop into the second game of our current series, which is ButAlways vs Yoger. ButAlways is currently leading 1-0. He's one map away from joining some friends in the playoffs bracket, as this is the final deciding match for this group stage in this region.
Yeah, really good performance from him in the first game, showcasing a lot of what we see from the other Protoss players in this region. That adept pressure, so on point, put so much pressure on the Zerg there for Yoga to deal with, and a lot of the Stargate as well. ButAlways doing some pretty good job just denying some of those paces. That 4 to 5 sort of void rate hit squad is always so annoying to deal with, and yeah, I expect it to zap that fourth hatchery down when it tries to be established, but actually outputs so much DPS onto that third hatch there.
Yeah, you got that right. It's hard to know how much he's committing to that too. You find out about it as it arrives at your base, and you got to pull more and more queens over there to deal with it. And the follow up as well. I think we saw Haas do a similar thing, right, where he opens Void Ray, but then follows up with some adepts, and then suddenly you're being pulled in multiple directions. Really effective way to open. But now we've got a nice long map. This is Jagannatha, and in the bottom left, Zerg fans, please cheer for your boy, Yoger.
And over on the other side of the map, he's one game away from making it a very Protoss heavy playoff bracket. It's going to be ButAlways.
Could be a Protoss heavy one indeed. And I do wonder, as it is foretold in the prophecies that the grand finals of the playoffs is basically always going to be Haas vs Nice. I wonder if that will be upset this season, or if we will have to wait for future seasons for that to happen.
Well, I don't know what you think. Obviously, these guys will have to play PvPs in some of those grand finals a lot of the time. But who do you think has more upset potential over those top two? Do you reckon it's Yoga, or do you reckon ButAlways has a bit more of a chance to upset one of those two guys?
Man, probably ButAlways, to be honest, because I know Haas seems to have a pretty good win rate over Yoga, so it's a bit of a tough ask. Against Nice, I think he has a better shot, but
you got some of those PvPs as well. Like even just both Nice and Haas seem so comfortable in those PvZs a lot of the time, just being able to deal with the opponent quite handedly. Whereas PvPs, sometimes you see some crazy stuff happen. You can see the underdog get himself a win on the board for sure.
Yeah, there's a few plays in this region who they were born in the PvP, molded by it. It's basically all they know, similar to the Oceanic region when it was like super Zerg heavy, like round of 8 Zerg. If you couldn't play ZVZ, good luck.
I feel like you're operating in one of these regions as a pro StarCraft gamer, wanting to go for your opportunities, you're relying on the prize money, and you're relying on PvPs for that. I would feel very, very sad about my life prospects. I'd be constantly stressed. I'd need some massages and things like that just to kind of chill me out a bit.
Yeah, I mean, as an up-and-comer too, that would be really daunting, right? Because you've got to somehow win PvPs if you too are a Protoss player against a guy who's been doing it for years. Like that's his whole career. Oh my goodness.
Bit of a Ling flood actually, maybe this time around, which is something different from Yoga. Do have that wall being plugged finally by the adept, but no drones in that production tab. Just the 19 workers. In come the speedlings straight on top of that cyber core. The oracle is in production over there, and some more structures being added to plug that wall later on potentially.
The oracle will be out here momentarily, and adepts do a lot of damage. They really do. And I don't think this is going to work. He's going to get the core, and he's going to get the warp gate, which is nice. But ultimately, he's not getting in the door here. And having opened Stargate, that's the focus for ButAlways here for the moment. Harass with those air units, see what you can get done. But Yoga's continuing to commit to these lanes.
Well, in theory, let's say he doesn't commit. He doesn't have that Evo up just yet. He doesn't have, that many queens. So there's not much to stop the oracles flying across the map and actually just snapping away a bunch of his drones, even if the link pressure does stop. Finally, you do start to see some drones feeded into the production tab there, but the lings will definitely need to keep applying pressure. He can't give these oracles too much space to be able to make that work a disadvantage even more. And actually, it was only a couple of drones, and then the Baneling nest goes into production tab as well as a couple of spores. So I'm kind of wondering, is he actually going to Baneling bust him and try to end the game, or is he going to commit to these this droning up?
He's got to commit. He's on 19 workers. You can't
Yeah.
come back from that.
He's trying, like he's still building a couple of drones, maybe just trying to get a bit more of that economy until he goes for another punch in there. And yeah, I was seeing a bit more of a transition here for ButAlways. He's starting to move into the Twilight and the Robo, a couple of Phoenix out there as well. 3 Oracles though, zapping away more of your workers when you don't have any in the first place. It's going to be difficult.
Oh no. Pilsky, I think this might be a really quick game too. This is not looking great for Yoga. I feel like he needs a miracle here. He needs the best Bane Bust. Now, there is a nice little spot to target there. He could still do a whole bunch of damage, so let's not write him off. But he's got to do some serious work here. And he comes, he's targeting that shield battery. Does manage to pop it with 3 Banes to spare the Adepts going down. Where are those Oracles at?
Yeah, they get recalled, but one of them actually goes down to the Spore in the meanwhile. They don't have a whole lot of energy here, so there's not really much to actually deal with all of these links that are now starting to flood into the main base. Surely these probes are going to have to start to do something.
Oh, the
that one Bane, though! Oh, that is a massive connection.
Oh my goodness, he did it. He actually killed him with the Bane Bust. GG, Yoga, you madman. Oh my goodness, we're going to a game number 3.
Yeah, the Oracle's just zooming across the map there. Maybe if they didn't use up as much of that energy and was back at home rather than getting recalled over the top of the Spore Crawler, maybe it would have been a bit of a different scenario. At the same time, I'm not so sure. That Bane Bust looked pretty deadly, and that one Baneling just waddling his way all the way from the 3rd base and sees about 40 probes all clumped up on top of each other. Oh my god.
Yeah, that was not safe for work, that Bane here, that's for sure. If he had 2, it would have been even worse. But this looked so doomed from the start, right? But always very calmly just positions the Adepts, pokes it down, gets the Oracle involved, and he was keeping such good tabs on where the lings were for so long that I think in my mind I assumed he would just see this and he would start targeting down Banes with Oracles. But he went across the map, and by the time he recalled, well, he didn't really have any energy left, and he also didn't have any probes left.
That Bane was just disgusting. I could watch the replay of that Bane over and over and over again until the end of time. Either way, Yoga, he does stay alive. Yes, it was a bit of a dicey situation for him, but he navigates I feel like the only path to victory. You're not playing out a long game from that position, so he knows exactly what he needs to do. He said he's a man who doesn't mind a bit of aggression, and he's well within his comfort zone to even up the series and take us to a game 3.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting. I suddenly feel like this could still be a Yoga win. After that first game, I was like doubting myself. I was like, maybe I made the wrong prediction. But always looked pretty strong there. But yeah, this is where Yoga, I think, can excel because he does have a variety of different aggressive builds. From memory, they tended to be off 3 base. I guess that was 2 because he took the 3rd hatchery, but it wasn't. It had no workers on it, right?
Yeah,
It was
just the 3 hatch sort of link flood that you do often see. And like you said, didn't work out too well for him, but the Bane follow-up, pretty nice. Does actually make that one work, and now you're gonna see what kind of approach he goes for in that 3rd game. Definitely the aggression was sort of the deciding factor there for Yoga. At the same time, though, maybe a little overconfident there for ButAlways. The flying the oracles across the map, they didn't have any energy to be able to zap things away, and I felt like he thought that was over. He kind of just took it for granted and let his eyes off the prize for a second, and that's all you need sometimes.
Yeah, Yeah, precisely. I mean, it looked really good for him. It really did. He was up about 45 workers to the 19 drones of his opponent with these sort of weird half link floods. Like he's kind of poking and pulling back, pulling back. It almost looks like he's just buying time to make drones. So yeah, it's a rough decision to make. Send all 3 of your oracles, which could have saved you, over to the other side of the map and do some damage. I think we saw a similar game to that earlier on tonight in Oceania with who was it? It was Seetha versus Mio Micah. Spoilers, by the way. But at one point, Seetha pretty much had it on lock. He had these banshees, big and strong, against Mio Micah's all in, and he sent him across the map while a Nidus happened. And seems to be that those A units, you need to be really sure about where those are going before you commit, or you can just lose yourself a game like that. So yeah, interesting one. ButAlways didn't seem too concerned. We saw him take a big old swig of the water bottle there at the end, and rolls up his sleeves, hopefully ready for map number 3. Now
Yeah,
it's
I
all
think
on the
he's
line.
he's going to be able to realize that he can't let that one slip through his grasp. So let's see if he's going to make amends for that. Either way, Yoger evening things up 1-1. Let's see if he can actually steal away this series. In the top left, it's the Blue Zerg from Taiwan. It's Yoger.
And his Protoss opponent in the red in the bottom right. This is ButAlways.
Damn, the violins got me feeling some kind of way.
Yeah.
It's crazy. You do have the gas and pool. So no hatch first for Mr. Yoga here as we are moving on to light shade.
Yes, a smaller map than Jagannatha, more square rather than a rectangle. So we'll see what we come out here with for ButAlways. Is he sticking to his Stargate guns? As usual, coming in for the hatch block and forcing Yoga to take the forward third.
See if that does end the majority of ways that I've been seeing so far in this region, which is just very uncomfortable to defend, especially with that third base location. Seen, especially on some of these newer maps, plenty of these players just continue to expand either horizontally or vertically rather than closer towards the middle side of the map. That is, quite a jog from the main down towards that third base. So you see some of those adepts or oracles come into play. That's where I could start to get a little bit concerned, perhaps.
Yeah, it can be quite annoying. I suppose if your goal is to continue to be aggressive in this game as a Zerg, it concerns you a little less because you're trying to be in his face, which may in turn keep him off your back, but it is less than ideal, and spreading creep around that corner is a bit of a pain in the butt. So yeah, you'll have to keep an eye on that Stargate shenaniganry that is now going to be coming out. There's the Stargate dropped once again. I feel like you could basically just blind spore against ButAlways, right? Like you just know he's gonna do it to you.
Yeah. See if it is the oracles zooming across the map or whether he does start up that void ray. We do only have that one overlord in position over the wall. So no other overlords being a little bit brave and trying to sneak out around the map, as you did have seen the void rays sort of clearing those out. Much more conservative overlord placement, which it might be a little bit more worrisome for Yoga. I've seen a lack of information and map control from some of these Zerg players kind of come back to bite them quite a few times, and it is actually the Oracle to open up here.
Right, well, he'll be wanting a spore or two there just to make sure he's extra safe, and he's moving that overlord that you pointed out just before in to try and get a scout off here. He will see the natural gas, which is already something that you want to keep tabs on, and he should be able to make it straight in towards that Stargate. There's not really anything that can contest that except for a Stargate unit itself, which will be the Phoenix follow-up there. So he will eventually lose his overlord, but does get that initial information and a little bit of warning about that Oracle.
Yeah, more than enough defense there as the creep spread between the bases does start out now for the Zerg player. Back at home for ButAlways, like you said, the man went Oracle Phoenix. Nothing else coming out of that Stargate, at least for the time being, until that Overlord gets cleaned up. And he's adding himself a Robo there as well as a Twilight. So moving through the tech tree quite rapidly as this man, he's going to have all of his options open to him. And I really like that, especially you go back to that first game. That's where he was really able to transition a little quicker than you might see some players. He already had that Stargate from the earlier game up against the Mutas. He was able to just add another Stargate and start pumping those Phoenix out.
Mm. And I'll be keeping an eye on what tech's going to come out from that Twilight.
Ooh.
Oh my goodness.
That's actually such a big deal that doesn't go down, because it just keeps the door open for later. Obviously, it will be much squishier of a unit down on the hull damage, but now you're starting to see charges being chrono boosted, and like I said, there's no info. It's a swell of gateways. It's the charge being chrono boosted out. He's going to go for Zealot Archon there and go for a bit of a punch. But now he's seeing the Baneling Nest, the +1, as well as a whole lot of lings in the production tab. It seems like Yoger is happy with his 50 workers and wants to start applying some pressure.
Yeah, this is an interesting match. ButAlways has done this to Yoger before and killed him with it. Because, like you pointed out, he doesn't have the information that he necessarily needs. And Charge Lot does a ridiculous amount of damage. If you just don't have enough from the start to at least contest it, it snowballs out of control so fast that you just really can't get a grip on the game. So he's starting to see some of those lings come across the map now. Bane's not the worst things to have against charge lots. However, there's Archons coming into the mix because he dropped the Templar Archive as well. That's going to complicate things.
Well, fake third here has been spotted out by Yoger, as you do see the Oracle and a couple of Adepts. Pretty normal looking, to be honest, if this is what you're looking for a Zerg player. In the meanwhile, though, the Warpins over there towards the top middle side, as yes, these Zerglings do get cleaned up. Now the bust in towards the main as that Cybercore getting very, very low. On top of the drones, a bunch of them do go down, and 2 more Banes still staying alive. Deal with quite a lot of that economy, and surely this Cybercore does go down. Oh, the overcharge just in time. And now the pressure onto the third of the Zerg is there.
Does he save that? He might just save that core. Oh, he does! Oh my god, no way! And Yoger is now in trouble because there's charge lots and Archons on top of him, and all he has is Ling Bane, a few Queens in the mix as well, but he needs to get that War Prism, he needs to be able to take out the money units. I'm not sure he's going to be able to with just these Lings. They do have +1, but is that enough?
I think it's looking good enough. He does get the Banelings connections onto all of those Zealots. Now it's just the Archons trying to be microed by the Warp Prism, but I think it's too many Queens. He's going to push him away, and he does have a pretty significant worker lead after some of those Banes did connect. So I'm looking at Yoger. He's in a pretty good condition here. He does grab that lair for himself, and now this is where he's starting to see ButAlways slip down that slippery slope where potentially he does have to commit to this a little bit. He's quite far behind in terms of the workers. He is actually probing up behind this, and he is going to try and leverage that third base that he did get for himself.
Look at that War Prism micro, though. He can continue to harass here, and I think he should. 3 probes at a time, he'll catch up pretty fast there. Having that third base is very important.
Wow.
Love to see him maybe move into some upgrades once he's comfy there as well, but he can keep the pressure up, and if he can keep doing damage, he could just win with this, because Yoger still doesn't have the most ideal composition to deal with 5 Archons with some charge lot support.
Yeah, especially when you start to saturate that additional base. Some of the Banes trying to get on top of the Zealots, but that's great bodyguarding from all of those Archons, just being able to soak up all of that damage. And now the Zealots getting on top of this massive amount of Queens, and this is where there's a little bit of a lack of units for the Zerg player. I'm not sure if he's going to be able to deal with this. He has no bloody units outside of the Queens here, Zeph.
He's doing it. I think we've got the tap out. Yes, we do. GG, well played from Yoger. Big smile from ButAlways as he has just secured himself a place into the playoffs. So well done to him.